Chris H says percent raw input percent. Ryan Cooper says percent raw input percent.
If you're a new streamer and you've only ever heard of Streamlabs or StreamL, I got a tool for you that you've got to add to your stream. It's going to allow your viewers to activate a filter in your camera using channel point rewards, or have an animation play every time you get a hype train, or control your stream using just your voice, or even things like typing a message in Twitch chat every time an ad is running. Literally anything that you can think of, this tool can do it. It's StreamerBot. It's another StreamerBot video. Look, I know I've already done a video in this, but the video I made is super old and the UI has changed.
Good morning, YouTube. I am Bearded Ink, and today the long-awaited tutorial has arrived. Cue the trumpets and streamers. Of course, I mean, we're going to talk about Speaker.bot, the TTS companion to Streamer.bot. And this is the bot that you're going to want to use. First thing we have to do after we download and open the bot is that we have to connect it to everything that we connect it to. So we're going to skip over a lot of these tabs. We're going to go right into settings. The first thing we're going to look at here is the general tab. We're going to make sure that speaker.bot is in the name. We have our own ID, and again, that it is enabled. Okay, we're going to come back to this tab later and cover the rest of it. But right now, this is what we're looking for primarily. Okay, we're going to go. This is what we're looking for. So now, okay, we're going to go. So now, let me zoom in. We're going to go now to the accounts tab. We're going to click on the tab, and as you can see, we are not logged in to anything currently, as would be expected. Now, this is just going to bring up the Twitch authorization. It's going to connect your account to Twitch. I'm going to go ahead and do this on the other screen just so I can make sure that I'm logged into Robot Bearded, which is my testing account, instead of my primary account, which is already connected to my other one. So we're going to click on login. It's going to bring up the authorization page. You've all seen this before. You know, it looks like this, right? Okay. And then if we go in and let me just zoom out again, you'll see that it automatically just pops in and then connects to the chat client, the pub sub, and the event sub. All right. So now that we have that taken care of, we're going to go and connect to the StreamerBot website. Now, this is the next tab over. As you can see here, we got the Twitch and the StreamerBot website. So with the StreamerBot website, like I said, it connects to Discord. So we're going to go ahead and click on login there, and we're going to let that load up, and then we're just going to verify that we are on our correct Discord login. We're going to click authorize. So we've connected to the Twitch, we've connected to StreamerBot. Now they also have Streamlabs and Stream Elements that you can connect to, and this would be for like your donations. If you have your alerts going through there that have TTS on them, as well as like your donations or merch stores, you can connect through those if you would like to as well. So once we have our accounts connected now, we need to come all the way down to the WebSocket server. And let me just show you that up close to the WebSocket server tab. And unlike StreamerBot, let me point this out here while we're here. You cannot drag and drop any of these tabs around. There is no right click to remove ones you're not using like the StreamerBot has, at least not yet. Okay, not a big issue. Just want to point that out for those of you that got used to doing that in StreamerBot and putting things like precisely where you like them. This bot doesn't have that option. But to be fair, there aren't as many tabs and options to go through. Okay, so with the WebSocket server, this is what's going to allow it to connect through the StreamerBot login to your OBS and to StreamerBot so that everything talks together and you can have your TTS come through all of the sources that it needs to go through. So what we want to do is we want to click on auto start. And then the first time you come through, you're going to click on start server. And as you can see, it'll just automatically join up. All right. Now, the setup is basically done and out of the way. So anytime you open this up, we're going to click save settings now. Anytime that you open the bot, it'll automatically connect to your accounts that you have connected and to the WebSocket server. So make sure that your OBS and all that is open as well, and you're going to be good to go. Okay, so now let's go back to the event log. Let's start. You can see now it's filling out. We've come in, we've connected to Twitch, we've connected to StreamerBot, we've started the WebSocket server. Everything, like I told you, is going to show up in the in the event log tab. All right, so now we're going to move over to the processing tab. And this is the tab up top right here next to the event log. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And then as you can see, it just has a queue and a process. There's nothing to do. There's no right click or nothing. This is just another information tab for you, so you can see that what has been run, what is getting stuck in the queue, if anything, or what is taking so long. If something is not working the way you expected, you can come here and check it out. So the queue, the top square up here, this will tell you what's pending to go through, and the processed ones have been sent to the speech engine. The voice has come back, and everything is hunky-dory and should have worked. Okay, the users tab then, if we look in again close up here, the users tab is going to show us who is in our chat currently. Okay, it's going to also give us a lot of other information. So if we look over here, we're going to have their user ID, their voice alias, their nickname, their username, their current role in your channel, whether they're a user, a follower, subscriber, VIP, moderator, editor, or the broadcaster if you happen to be the broadcaster. Okay. And then the last time they were active in your channel. And then we have the ignored, forced, regular, and subscribed toggle boxes. And then their past voices down here. And I'm going to cover all of this once we add the voices. So don't get too worried about that at the moment, because we are going to come back to this as well. The next one up on the tabs list up here is the events tab. So if we click on this, let me show you real quick around by zooming out a little bit here. This is your global event settings. You can have a global event for everything that you have checked on the right-hand side. You can enable it and then pick the voice alias once we've added them. Okay, and then this is what you want to do, what you want the bot to say. So for example, when I get a follow, let's zoom in here and show you a little bit. When I click on follow over sub, then I come to this window to tell me, are they enabled? And then what the message is. So this is thank you for the follow name, right? And so what the bot will say in whatever voice we select up here, the bot will say, thank you for the follow, Bearded Ink, or whoever followed you. Or it'll say, oh, hey, Bearded Ink, thanks for hitting that follow button. And you can add as many of these as you want right down here. So as long as this is enabled, you can come in here and you can type in, hi, thanks for following me. Percent user, you are amazing. Okay, and then all we have to do is click on add. Now, before I do that, I'm going to put this weight at 0.1, and then I'm going to click add. And then what happens, as you can see up here, the message is added, but it has a weight of 0.1, where the other ones are 0.0. This means this one will happen more frequently than the others, because it's going to select one of these at random. It's not going to read all of them. So when somebody follows you, it's going to pick one of these at random. But this one's going to have a heavier weight. So instead of having each one be like a 33% chance of occurring, this one might have like a 40 or 50% chance, and then the other two split that difference evenly amongst themselves. Okay, if you see something and you don't like it, you can just come down here and click the delete button, and then it is gone from the list and you're left over there. And then the same thing with all of your options here. The sub with a message, you can read the message. And then as you can see, they all have you can use variables here that are what get pulled in, which is why we need to connect our account to Twitch. We can have the resubs, gift subs, raid cheers. You see the list going on down. We have a lot of things, including stream elements tips or sale from a merchant. Real quick, this is just if you want to add a specific command that gets triggered to read in a voice. Then this is where you can add it right here so that you don't need streamer.bot. But I highly recommend that you use it. I don't use this part because all of my stuff comes from StreamerBot. It just uses the built-in integration with SpeakerBot. Channel rewards, if you have channel point rewards, you can find them listed right here. And then you can, again, click the starter general. I told you we'd be back here. You can go through and look at all this stuff. The output device is where the audio comes from. I highly suggest that you set this to your headphones or leave it as system default. If it's on default, it'll be whatever is set for your computer to be the default output for audio, which is going to usually be your headphones. But you can have TTS come from any other source. It doesn't have to go directly to your headphones. It can come out of one of your monitor speakers, for example. So that option is there for you. I usually leave it on default because that's what I want everything to go through is whatever I'm currently listening to. Okay, you can adjust the volume, but this is going to be site-wide, so it'll be in your headset, it'll be through OBS. If you need it louder or shorter, you can do it here, but you can also take control manually in OBS, which I find to be a little bit easier. The save to TTS, let me zoom in on this part right here again for you. This section here, if you enable this, you're gonna have to find a file or create a folder for them to save the WAV files to, and what this does is every time your TTS is used, it'll record it and save it to a WAV file in this directory that you choose. Now, I suggest for now that you leave this unchecked until we get everything going and working, and then when you come back and you're trying to get things going on your own and expand the usefulness of this bot, I can talk. I promise I can talk. I can talk, I can type, I just can't do it all the time. But this is going to be helpful when you're trying to do like a TTS mascot, to make sure that everything lines up correctly and that the mascot knows when to stop moving based on when the audio file that has been saved ends. So I will be doing a tutorial on TTS mascots as well. But for this scope of this tutorial, it's a little bit higher level than we need, okay? One thing I will suggest is over here, you'll find the log level. I would drop this down and click on verbose, at least while we're setting up, at least until you have a grasp of everything and how it works and it's working on your stream. And then you can come back and change it to debug, but I would leave it on either debug or verbose, okay? What this is going to do is if you do require help and somebody says, I need to see your log file, you can show them the full verbose log file. And it can help pinpoint the problems a lot faster than having, and this is the fun part. So let me zoom out. As you can see, it's very blank. And this is one of the biggest overhauls of the 1.3 update is how the voices are added. And as you can see up here, we have an add and a remove button. There's nothing to remove, so remove is grayed out. But we're going to click on add. And as you can see, these are all of the speech engines that you can currently use. Now, some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them are paid with a free trial period. So it's all going to depend on what you're comfortable with and what you need out of the bot. Now, I am not going to cover how to sign up with every single one of these processes. If you happen to need more specific help for your specific issue, if it's not covered in this tutorial, in the description below, you will find a link to my new Patreon where I offer live one-on-one help. Some of the higher paid tiers get a certain allotment of live help for free. And then I also sell live one-on-one consultations where we will get on like a Discord call, share screens, figure out your problem, get it resolved, and all that. But for this purpose, I'm going to show you a couple of them so you kind of get the idea of how to do it. And then we're going to talk about some of the other ones, and then we're going to move on. So let's add some speech engines. The first one I want to add, and we're going to zoom in here, is the SAPI 5. Now, SAPI is Microsoft's default API for speech engines. That's what SAPI stands for, Speech Engine API number 5, or 5th version, whatever it is. It's 2 voices, a male voice and a female voice, but it is already built into your Windows operating system, so it is completely free. There is no limits. You never have to pay for it. So if you click on SAPI 5, you'll see that there is nothing to do, and we already have David and Zira installed. So there they are. We're ready to use it. We can use them now, right now, if we wanted to. Save settings. We made a change. Okay. Personally, if you want to be just like me, and I mean, who doesn't? Most people probably. If you want to be like me, I have SAPI because it's always good to have a fallback that's never going to go away. I have Amazon Poly, which is a paid service, and TTS Monster because some of the voices are fun. But TTS Monster and UberDuck are probably the most popular. 11 Labs is also very popular. That is a paid service. Google and IBM also have really good services as well, but they are also paid with free trials. So if you want standard voices that don't cost you an arm and a leg and that work, I suggest Amazon Poly and the Google Cloud TTS. Those setups are very, very intermediate level, I would say. You have to go to their websites, you have to make your account, but you have to go through their steps, and it is a lot for this tutorial. So if you want specific help, again, let me know either through the comments below or join the Patreon, and we can get you set up with those there, okay? But you're going to want to have probably one of them, and the reason is, and I'm going to tell you this right now, but we'll go over it again later. TTS Monster, UberDuck, 11 Labs, even Sirproc, they use the AI voices, right? Those are the fun ones, the ones that sound like Eminem or PB Herman or whatever, right? Oscar the Grouch and all of that. They're really fun to have, but they come with a built-in start delay, and it is randomized anywhere from 0.1 seconds up to a full second. And once we get into this, you'll see what I'm talking about. And especially if you have like a mascot that comes out and its little mouth moves while your TTS is speaking, that delay, because it is random, cannot be overcome with code. So you can't just like, oh, we're going to use the speech engine and we'll just put in a 1 second delay before the TTS starts moving, because it may only be half a second and then your little mascot's half a second behind, right? And so for those instances, you're going to want to use a more neural voice, which comes with Amazon Poly or the Google Cloud, because they are instant, there's no delay, and everything is constant from the get-go. All right. But the fun ones are the fun ones, and we want to use those. So we're going to cover a couple of those. All right. So aside from those, one of the ones I use is TTS Monster. So what you're going to do, you're going to click on TTS Monster, and then you're going to see that it's asking for an overlay URL. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to come up here. We have to go to the website. Let me zoom out here. Okay. And TTS Monster's website is just tts.monster. Okay. Now it's going to ask you to sign in. Now, one thing I will point out about TTS Monster, they are still beta testing, even though it's been a couple of years now. So it's not open to just everyone. You can log in with Twitch or YouTube, but to get access, you have to be either a Twitch affiliate, a Twitch partner, or a YouTube partner on a higher partner tier. If you don't meet those requirements, it'll give you a warning. Actually, we'll just look here. We'll log in. We'll do this one here. It'll tell you no beta access is allowed. Okay, so that's what you're going to get if you get that. Now, because Robot Bearded is not logged in or not an affiliate, we would get that with him as well. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my Bearded Ink account. And as you can see, there's a lot going on. Now, I'm not going to cover all of the different settings and everything like that you can do, but as you can see, there is stuff you can have TTS come through for tips and bits and resubs and channel points and through your extension use. Here you
You've been seeming sus lately, almost like we have an imposter among us.
We're no strangers to love, you know the rules, and so do I.
It isn't true that my mattress is made.
Hello, Mr. Streamer. I noticed the title says games and shit, but I don't see any game. Please clarify.
You will never be the protagonist in an anime. You will always be a loser.
you can set a delay, and this will add to the already current delay. It is an effort to make them more uniform, but it still isn't perfect. Okay, so but down here we have all of the voices that are enabled, and as you can see, there are some that are checked that are white, like Adam here, and we can check on this one and add it to our list. But the red ones are the premium plan ones, so you would have to pay for the premium plan to be able to use the ones that are marked in red. Okay, but all of the other ones, and there's quite a few, and they're not bad ones either, right? Like, I mean, these are some sound effects type, but the voices here, I mean, you still have like Kronk, you got Moist Critical, you have Obama, all right, we got the movie guy live from Sunday, all right, you got Ghostface. I mean, so it's not like the free tier is bad. Some of the cool ones, of course, are going to be on the paid tier, but you don't need to do that. But I do want you to notice that this is the total monthly AI TTS messages you get per month. Okay, so we have 300. Now this counts for your testing too. So once you sign up for this account, I think you get like 400 or something. But every time a message comes through using one of these voices, it's going to drop down. Now it's not a character count, it's not a word count, it's a complete message, which is nice. A lot of the other ones do it by character count or word count. So you may only get like 1,000 characters free per month. So you got to pay attention on the services that you select for what their limits are on the free tiers or for your trial period even. Okay, but what we want to do with TTS is this is our overlay URL. Now it says for stream elements, but don't worry about it. It's the same thing because the information that they need, that the bot needs, is embedded in this URL, and the bot just pulls that section out without making you have to do it. In the previous version, I think it was 1.1, you had to come in here, you had to look at this, you had to find the exact little section of code from this long-ass URL that the bot needed and only put that in. But now Nate's done it where the bot does all that for you. So we're going to click the little copy button. We're going to minimize this. We're going to come back in here. We're going to paste that. Right in there, and then we're going to click OK, and we're going to give it a second to connect, to draw in, and there it shows up on the list. And if I click it, you will now see that TTS Monster has 65 voices that are included, and they're all good to go. Current, we can use any of them for any of our voices, aliases that we're going to create in a moment. Okay, can I zoom out now? Thank you. All right, so we're going to add one more. I'm going to show you one more. This one doesn't require you to be a Twitch affiliate, so non-affiliates and those that are on YouTube that are not on a partner plan can use, and that is UberDuck. Okay, and same thing with UberDuck. This one we're going to need a client key and a secret key to use. All right, now the secret key is going to be shown on this video. I'm not going to bother to blur it out because I don't use UberDuck. Okay, so I'm going to delete the key. I'm going to delete the API for it, and then I'm going to log out, and I probably will never be back. But UberDuck is fun, and a lot of people use it, so I want to show you it. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to come up here. We're going to go to UberDuck now. UberDuck. Right now, this one, UberDuck, we can sign up. We can sign in. All right, and we've already signed in. And what we want to do on the website is once you come in, you've got the text-to-speech here, and this is all of their list. I think they have like 213 something voices. That's just the English ones. And unlike TTS Monster, you can't pick and choose which ones you want to use. So what we're going to do, let me zoom in here. We're going to come over here real quick. And we're going to click on our little avatar icon up in the top corner, and we're going to go to settings. Okay, and then that's going to bring up this page. And right here, you see that we have our API key. This one is going to not be here. This is because I was testing things and doing one earlier. But what you're going to do is you're going to click on create new API key. You're going to give it a name, and we're going to call it SpeakerBot2. And then create a key. Now, it's very important. I want you to notice this, and this is why I did this. I can copy my public key right here. I can click this, copy it to the clipboard. The secret key, I cannot. Okay? I can't copy it again. This right here, my secret key, is the only time you will ever see this key. If you don't do it right now and you come back and log in again, you'll see nothing but stars and no copy and no option to copy. Okay, so if you lose the secret key, you have to make a whole new API. So we're going to copy the secret key first. We're going to go back to the bot. We're going to put that in the secret key window right there. We're going to come back here. We're going to copy the UberDuck. Okay, and same thing with UberDuck. This one we're going to need a client key and a secret key to use. All right, now the secret key is going to be shown on this video. I'm not going to bother to blur it out because I don't use UberDuck. Okay, so I'm going to delete the key. I'm going to delete the
This
API
is some
for it,
test
and then
audio.
log out, and I probably will never be back. But UberDuck is fun, and a lot of people use it, so I want to show you it. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to come up here.
This is some
UberDuck. Right now, this one UberDuck, we can sign up. We can sign in. All right, and we've already.
This is some test audio.
Is once you come in, you got the text to speech here, and this is all of their list. I think they have like 213 something voices. That's just the English ones. And unlike TTS Monster, you can't pick and choose which ones you want to use. So what we're going to do, let me zoom in here. We're going to come over here real quick, and we're going to click on our little avatar icon up in the top corner, and we're going to go to settings. Okay, and then that's going to bring up this page. And right here, you see that we have our API key. This one is going to not be here. This is because I was testing things and doing one earlier. Basically, what happens is this is voices, specific voices or specific site I want it back. I can just come in here and click add, select it from the list, and there it is. All right, we good to go on that? Cool. So hopefully you understand now how to add voices for your TTS. And we're going to move along. We're going to the ignored voices and locales. Basically, what happens is this is voices, specific voices or specific languages that you can exclude when we have the generic speaker enabled. Remember, I showed you that earlier. And if you have random voice selected, it will ignore that. So that way, if you do have, for example, like the UberDuck, it won't start speaking in Polish or Italian all of a sudden. You can select the languages you don't want and put those in the ignored list or specific voices. So, like for example, if I didn't want the Microsoft David to ever come up, I could. Speaking options. This is a big page. So let me zoom in here. Once you set this up, you're pretty much good to go and don't need to come back here again. But there are some key things that we want to cover. So under the speaking options part right up here, let me try to center this again. All right, here we go. You have all of these checkboxes. Now, the say everything, I leave this one unchecked, but basically this will say everything. So if somebody uses TTS to reply to someone else's message, it will read the reply message as well, because that is actually technically in Twitch chat part of the message. So the say everything can get very cumbersome. It also means that for those that come in and put like the www, it will stop and pause between every letter, and it'll make a 500 character text prompt take about 25 minutes to read. So I would avoid using this. There are reasons why you would want to say everything. I just haven't come across them yet. But I do say the username, and we're going to go over that when we start making the aliases, now that we have our speech engines included. But this will say before the message. So, let's, for example, say I went into the chat and I used the TTS command and I said, hi, I'm new here. It would say verbally or audibly out loud, Bearded Ink said, hi, I'm new here. Okay, and that way you know who is saying it. So if you're deep into your game or whatever, you can have that as, oh, that's who, and you can respond to them without having to stop and read the chat and figure out who said it. And then the user said postfix. This is like when I said Bearded Ink said. You can have this say says. So it'll say Bearded Ink says, or you can even have it say poop if you want. Bearded Ink poop, whatever. Don't put poop. Don't put poop. Okay. I leave it as said because it's what they said. But again, says is another common option. You can always have exclaims, ask, questions, whatever, depending on your use. So like if you're using your TTS for only people to ask you questions, for example, you can change that to asks, and it'll say Bearded Ink asks, what's going on today? Whatever. Okay. So that's what that's for. The sticky random voice, this one will make things that if it's a sticky voice, and so if you have like 5 people in your chat and they're all using a TTS and you have random voice enabled, sticky voice, what happens is the first person will say something, it'll randomly pick a voice for them, but then that person gets stuck with that voice for the rest of that stream. So that way, if you leave this unchecked, which I do because I don't use the random voice, so I don't bother to check it anyway. But if you decide to leave it unchecked and use random voice, then what's going to happen is every time anybody uses TTS, they will randomly get a new voice. But if you want them to have the same voice once they've established whatever voice it's going to be for that chat, you're going to check this box. The allowed forced is basically, remember when we went back to the users, remember these checkboxes down here on the bottom? The ignored, forced, regular, subscribed. If they are forced, you have to check the box for that user, check that they're forced, and then in the here, allowed to force means that they will get to use the TTS. Now, only say username if previous was different. This one I put on. Basically, what this does now is, let's say you have somebody in chat, and they're the only person that's using the TTS at the moment, and they keep sending message after message after message after message using the TTS. every time they send a TTS message, it'll say, because we have this checked up here, Bearded Ink said blah, blah, blah. Next message, Bearded Ink said blah, blah, blah. If, however, you check this box right here, it will only say Bearded Ink said, that part will only get spoken if it's the first time that they've spoken or they were the last person to speak. So if you have one person in chat, it'll say Bearded Ink said blah, 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 blah. Then the next message that comes through will just say blah, 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 blah. Okay? But if two people are talking and they're both using TTS, then it'll say Bearded Ink said blah, 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 blah. And then Sally the bot said blah, 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 blah. Then Bearded Ink said, right? Makes sense? So it'll always tell you who the new speaker is, but if the two consecutive messages come through with the same speaker, it'll ignore that username and postfix and just say the message, which is really nice. And then right here, this one I always have on, replace the name with the nickname. And we're going to go back again to the users. I'm going to show you. Remember when I showed you the nickname spot? So with Bearded Ink here, normally people just call me Bearded, right? So I can come in here because I know Bearded Ink. He's my moderator. He's a cool dude. He's really great. Everybody should follow him on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and TikTok. But I can just come in here and say Bearded and leave off the ink. So now when Bearded Ink speaks in my chat, because I have this done, it won't say Bearded Ink said. It'll just say Bearded said. So you can give them a nickname. So if you have like your girlfriend comes in and you call her your wifey, you can say wifey. Whatever's in the nickname spot here is what the bot will say. And if this spot is blank, it will default to their full username. Okay, makes sense? Good to go? Cool. Okay, the last spoke grace period. I set this to 90 seconds. You can play around with it and pick whatever you like. I find 90 seconds to be about the best. But basically, this comes back to the only say usernames if previous was different. If the messages come through and it's been less than 90 seconds. Okay, so for example, I come into your chat, I use your TTS, it says, Bearded Ink says, blah, 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 blah. If I don't use TTS again for a minute and a half, and then I go, oh, and I type another TTS message, if it's been 90 seconds or more, it'll say, Bearded Ink says, blah, 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 blah. If it's been less than 90 seconds, it'll still continue, it'll consider it part of the previous message, and it won't say the Bearded Ink says part again. But after a minute and a half, a new TTS comes in. I may not know that it's still from the same person, or I may not remember who the last person to use it was, so I want to hear the name again. So that's why, but I set it to 90 seconds. You can set it to 30 or 60 or 12, whatever you find works best for you. Okay, so the maximum of, and this defaults to 25 words, is how many words are going to get processed by the speech engine. So if you're looking to keep your costs down or prevent those right, those, you can set this low. But I don't want to do that. People are using it. They're using their channel points to use a TTS. They're using a resub or they're gifting bits and get their TTS message read that way. If they're paying for it, I don't want to hinder them. But you'll notice that this is a drop down. We can use words or characters. I'm going to go with characters, and I'm going to change this to 500 because 500 characters is the message limit for a Twitch message. So Twitch will not allow a message to go through unless it is 500 characters or less. So this will ensure that the entire message that person sends is read out in the TTS voice. Okay. Now the not allowed text right here underneath that. And again, if you're trying to save money, let me just go back real quick. If you're trying to save money, if you're on one of the paid services and you're noticing that, oh my God, my bill's getting pretty high, it's using a lot, you can lower that down. My default before I went to characters was I set it to 100 words, and 100 words seemed to read every message just fine without going over a whole lot of limits on some of the paid services that I was using before. But now I use Amazon Poly, which is free. If you've never signed up with it before, Amazon Poly, I recommend it's free, unlimited use for the full first year. After 12 months, then they start to charge you, but it's like 10 cents for a million characters in a month. And I think my highest bill ever, and I've been using this now for almost 3 years, my highest bill from Amazon Poly for a month has been 13 cents. So it's affordable. You know what I mean? 13 cents is not going to break the bank. It better not. So keep that in mind too, though. If you have some of the ones that are paying, I think, is it 11 IL or whatever, you get like 1,000 or 10,000 characters a month. And if you go over that, you got to pay like a premium price. So you want to be careful with those and make sure that when you're setting up your speech engines, you read all that fine print and know how much you're going to be charged before you add them to the bot. Because I guarantee you, when you first add this to your streams, your chat's going to go wild and it's going to be all they do for like a week. And you're going to hit those limits very, very fast. So after that, it'll start to simmer down a little bit, but just be prepared and know what you're paying for, okay? But now let's continue on. The not allowed text basically defaults to say you're not cool enough to have a voice, kappa and a little kappa emote. But what this is for is this is a message that is sent to chat when somebody tries to use your TTS and doesn't have permission to do so. You can make it say whatever you want. So for example, I only have TTS enabled for subscribers and VIPs. So for followers, non-followers, and non-subscribers that come into the chat, if they see all my subscribers and VIPs using the TTS and they try to use it, they're going to get a message. Now, my message is a little bit nicer. I still left the you're not cool enough to have a voice because I thought that was funny. But then I go on to say that voices are only for subscribers and VIPs, and then I tell them how they can become one or the other, with commands instead of typing all of that out, obviously. But you can make this say whatever you want. It just lets people know, hey, you don't have the permissions needed to have a voice. All right. The URL filter, I leave this disabled because most of my chat is really cool and they're not going to post links without permission anyway. But if they happen to do TTS with a link in it, the TTS will read out the link. Okay. You can have it strip the link, and this will be basically what happens is the TTS will read the message. When it comes to the URL, it'll just skip over it and then continue on with the rest of the message, which is a good option. Or you can have it yeet all. And basically what this means is before it gets processed, it'll look and scan, is there a URL in there? And if it is, it ignores the entire message and won't read any of it, which is kind of messed up. But it depends on where those links and TTS are coming from. So if it's like hate rate or spam bots or whatever, you might set yours to yeet all and just ignore the message completely. But strip or disabled is usually fine for most people because we have these other controls right below. So as you can see, stop and skip spoken messages on. The message gets deleted, the user gets timed out, or the user gets banned. Okay, so if TTS comes through and it is one of those spam bots or hate raids or whatever, and your mods catch it and they delete the message, TTS will stop immediately. It won't continue reading. If you time out or ban that person because of the messages or whatever reason, it'll stop reading immediately and it will not continue on. Okay, the command options, this will prevent the bot from giving feedback when the TTS command is used. Basically, if you do !TTS command, it won't speak it, is what it says. So you can use !TTS as an information panel without it being spoken out loud. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to come up over here to this side. And this is where all the magic happens a little bit of the magic anyway. So emotes, you can ignore Twitch, Better Twitch TV, Finkerface, 7TV, and Cheer emotes. you can ignore them all. So basically, because as you know, if you just click on an emote, it'll send it to chat and the emote shows up. But you can also type them out because every emote has a text word for it. Like the Twitch emotes are part of your username, usually a random number, and then whatever the broadcaster has named that emote. The TTS, when it's processing, doesn't see it as an emote. It sees it as a group of letters and numbers and tries to make a word out of it. And it'll actually read those out. So if somebody does TTS and then does two like LOL smileys or emotes at the end of it, the TTS will try to read those out unless you have it say ignore this. And then you can allow the first emote. So if there's one emote, it'll read it. If there are three, it'll read out the first one and then ignore the rest. But ignoring these is probably a good idea because they don't make sense, and it's not like you can speak an emote. Okay, but you can come in here on the allowed emotes list. Let me just move this over this way. You can have some allowed emotes. So if you know that some like have a funny name or whatever, you can default is an exclamation point with the quote marks and exclamation point with the word say, no space. So if I type these in chat and then a space and then the message, SpeakerBot will read that message. However, and this is what's important, iPhones, iPads, and I'm pretty sure the OS X platform as a whole doesn't use the curly quote marks. They use the straight quote marks, okay? So if somebody's on their iPhone on your chat and they want to use TTS and they do exclamation point quote marks, it will not be the same as the curly quotes. It'll be the straight quotes, which is different as far as computers are concerned, and it won't trigger the TTS. So there are a couple of ways around this for your iOS friends or your iPad and iPhone friends. If you do not have an iPhone, you can have somebody that does send you a message with the exclamation point and their straight quote marks, and then you can copy that and paste it right here, and then you can click add to add it. But if the other option is just to give them something else, like I have mine with an exclamation point pound sign, so they can use exclamation point pound sign, I click add, and now that will also trigger the bot, okay? And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this ignored text prefix with and leave the exclamation point. This way, if I happen to have a command on my streamer bot that already has the word say in it at the beginning, like I don't know what I would have, but maybe cyan, and it does like a little fucking Dragon Ball Z character or whatever, right? Because it's say, it would try to read that out, but I will ignore it because it's not an exact match to these. So we're going to leave those that way. Okay, we're good on that? Cool. Just don't forget your iOS friends, because even though they're weird, they still matter. Okay, we're going to go to replacement tab. Now, this is the only tab on the entire bot in SpeakerBot or StreamerBot where Nate has put a bold message, so it's very important, and I happen to agree with it. Do not abuse this tab. I find this very much like putting words in people's mouths as you're giving your viewers a voice, especially if you're using this for channel points or for bits and sub alerts and things like that people are actually spending their money on. Don't change their words, but that's what this tab does, okay? One of the things you can do is you can make it funny. If you're familiar with Buttspot at all, Buttspot is a bot on Twitch that will randomly select a chat message and copy it, but change some of the syllables to say the word but. And sometimes it's kind of funny. But if you want to duplicate that with your text-to-speech, you can do that as well. And one of the things, like I can change the word fuck to be the word poopy. And I click enabled, and I click add, and now anytime anybody uses TTS and their message says the word fuck, it'll replace fuck with poopy. And it's kind of funny, right? But you replace with, you can type in a word, a phrase, a sentence, a paragraph, and then replace it with something else. But like Nate says here, please be careful, because if I'm spending money, like, some people, you can have 200 bits to use TTS, right? If I spend 200 bits in your channel and you completely fuck off everything that I said, I'm never going to do that again, ever, in your channel, right? It just, why would you change what I said, So be very, very, very careful. But it does, if you are not an 18+ stream, for example, if you cater to a younger crowd or you don't like cuss words and things like that, you can change them. But better to use your bad word filter and just strip them, and then you can add the words here. Now, you will have to type them, but you don't have to say them. Fuck, damn, shit, cunt, whatever. Add them to your bad word filter here, and then you don't have to replace them. It'll just skip over it, okay? Easier that way. So I'm just going to delete these because I don't care, because I am 18+, and people can say fuck in my streams if they want to. All right? So, but that's how you would use the replacement. So be very careful with that, though, and keep in mind, especially for those of you that are charging or have alerts for things that cost money, don't put words in people's mouths, okay? Okay, moving on. We're almost done. The voice aliases. This is the page we're going to have a lot of fun with. So the voice aliases tab. This is the tab where we're going to give individual people their own voice, and pretty much the entire point of this whole bot, other than like using it for a TTS mascot or whatever. So this is going to work in tandem with the users tab here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's go back. We got the voice aliases tab, okay, and let's just kind of show you. Let me bring this down a little bit here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the name section here first, right? And you're going to give the voice alias a name. Now, I just like to name these after the people that are getting them, so I know what's what, but you can name it anything you want. So we're going to name this one Bearded, and I'm just going to give Bearded Ink a voice, but you can name it, like I said, whatever you want. So if you want it to be Poopy Head or, whatever. Okay. We're going to go with Bearded, and we're going to come over here and we're going to click add. And what that's going to do is it's going to put his name over here in the aliases name box. And as you can see, it is not currently in use, and we have nothing set for it. So the next thing we need to do, the application default, this is the output, so where you're going to hear the voice. 99.99% of the time, you're going to leave this as the application default. This is the whatever we set on the general tab here. Remember that? That's what it's going to use as application default. But we can come back in here and you can pick default, which is your system default, or your headphones, a monitor, whatever you like. But application default, normally the best option there. Now, we're going to come down to the bottom, and this is where you get to pick the voice for that person. So we're going to pick a voice. Excuse me, we're going to pick a voice for Bearded here. And we're just going to give him, I don't know, Ghostface. Okay?
This is a test message.
Sounds like, or what the voice sounds like. You can type a message in this box. This is a test message is default. And if we come over here and click the test speak button, notice the delay. This is a test message. So there you go. And then we say, oh yeah, we like that. We're going to click the add button. Okay. And so now what this is going to do is this is going to add the voice to the voice list here. Okay. And now I can come in here and I can add another name. Let's do Kermit. And we come over here and we add. So now it says Ghostface and Kermit. And if you have more than one voice added in this section, then the name that it's tied to, it will pick a voice at random to use. So if Bearded comes into my chat now and types, the first message he does in TTS may be the Ghostface voice, but the next one might be Kermit. He might get 3 Kermits in a row and then a Ghostface. It just depends on what they are. And of course, down here, you can set the volume of the voice. So if voices are really soft, you can raise the volume. If it's really loud, you can lower the individual volume. You can also change the pitch and the rate. I don't recommend you do that, especially if you're doing like, you're paying for the AI voices and stuff like that, but you can change the pitch so it's a little lower, a little higher, and you can change the rate so it speaks a little faster or a little slower. But most of the time, you're not going to have to mess with these. This is for some fine tuning for those that are very, very anal retentive. And yes, I have used these. Okay, but as you can see, it still says it's not in use, right? So now we need to go back to the Users tab. We need to find Bearded Ink in our list. Now, here is my second complaint about the bot. I cannot manually add people who haven't been in my chat. And by haven't been in my chat, I mean haven't been in my chat since I've connected the bot to Twitch. So for those of you that are following along today, even if you've been streaming for 5 years, if you just now open the bot and connected it to Twitch, the only person you're going to have in this list is you, the broadcaster, because nobody has been in your chat. Now, once you go live and people start coming in, their names are going to populate on this list. The cool thing with this is that this list is ever exhaustive. So if anybody shows up in your chat at all, ever, they will be added to the list. And that's what this hide not present checkbox is for. Let me show you what I mean. Let me bring over my personal speaker bot so you can take a look real quick. So these are the ones, because I have everything open. Pokemon Community Game, Robot Bearded is there, Stream Elements is there, this guy, this is, I don't know who that is, but he's there in my chat, right? Some of these things that I've been testing, they're in my chat currently, right? Even though I'm not live. But if I uncheck this box, watch what happens. Every person who has ever been in my chat, ever, since I started using Speaker.bot, is now listed here. So if I want to go back and give somebody a voice, you can find them in this list if they've been in your chat. But there is no current way. I'll just leave that open for now. There is no current way. And Nate, if you happen to watch this video and make it this far into it, please add this feature. Because people like us who are just, unless those mods show up, I stop what I'm doing on stream and go and manually, we're going to do that. And we're going to drop it down. So now, save settings. Bearded is linked to the voice alias of Bearded. So if we go back here, and now as you can see, it caught up with us. So now the viewer, Bearded Ink, is linked to the Bearded voice, which uses Ghostface. I'm going to delete Kermit. We don't want that. Right click, delete. That's how you get rid of one, by the way. There is no delete button. You have the add button down here, but you right click to delete or delete all for anyone that you want to remove. Okay, so and then you can add one for anybody that you want. And for those of you that are like me and just went through my rant, you can set this up for all of your VIPs. So I can have It's Alex Gaming, who is my girlfriend and amazing and beautiful. I can have her come in. I can have it added. I can come in here and I can give her a beautiful voice like Kronk. She's going to hate me. So now my girlfriend is Kronk, but I can't assign it to her until she comes into the Robot Bearded chat. Once she does, I can then click her name, drop to the drop down, add it here, give her nickname, and then be done with it, and then she has her voice. So it's not difficult. You just get everything pre-set up that way. But again, the people have to come in your chat first before they get populated on the list. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes for now, and we kind of have to live with it. I was hoping that would change with 1.3, but it did not. Maybe 1.4. Okay. But that's how you give people their voices. So now we're going to go back to settings. We're going to go back to the general tab. We're going to make sure that we're enabled, and we're going to test this out. We've already done the test here, so we can hear the voice. Here, let's hear Kronk.
This is a test message.
Okay, so there's Kronk. This is a test message. So now what we want to do is, you know what, we're going to give one to Robot Bearded as well. Robot Me. We're going to give him a voice. Let's give him Kronk. Okay. And then we're going to come back here to users. We're going to go Robot Bearded. We're going to give him Robot Me. We're going to give him a nickname of Bot Boy, because why not? And then we're going to save our settings. When we come in here, it'll refresh. Now he's caught up. So Robot Bearded has the Kronk voice. Regular Human Bearded has the Ghostface voice. Okay, so now if we go into our chat, or into OBS, we need to add our bot. Now, this is going to be different for all of you, depending on how you have your audio set up. If you've been following my tutorials along with OBS as well as the streamer.bot videos, you have separate audio. You're using the Wind Capture audio plugin, and it is a glorious thing. And you already have one named Bots. See it? And if we look at the properties window, you will see that streamer.bot is already there. Well, now we can come down to the dropdown and we can connect speaker.bot, add the executable, and streamerbot and speakerbot will now come through the same audio. If you are one of the ones that uses the desktop audio, everything comes in at once, there's nothing you need to do because you already have the bot going through your default or your system audio, and it's already in OBS. Otherwise, add the bot there. And if you don't already have one, if you've done the Wind Capture audio, let me show you just really, really quick what you're going to do. We're going to add a new source. We're going to add the application audio output capture. This one right here is the Wind Capture audio plugin. The beta is the one that's built in here. And I'm going to show you, let's just open up streamer.bot. We're going to open this bad boy up, and I want to show you one quick thing. This is going to be a future tutorial, but I'm going to give you something to look forward to, and something that you can try out on your own if you so desire. Now, SpeakerBot functionality is built into StreamerBot as of version 2.3. So if we go to our actions, if we make a new action, let's just name this TTS bot for now because it doesn't really matter. Click OK. We're going to give it, here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to right click in the sub actions. Hold on 1 second. Make sure I'm still not all zoomed in. Okay. We're going to right click on the sub actions. And then as you can see, SpeakerBot has its own stuff. So we can clear the pending. So that queue file, if one of them happens to get stuck, maybe one of your speech engines isn't responding or something, you can have a command that will clear out the pending queue. You can set the enabled state to be either enabled or disabled. You can pause TTS and unpause. You can have it speak. a certain message, or you can have it speak with a specific voice. The UDP, that is something we're going to go into when we're setting up. When I'm doing the tutorial for your text-to-speech mascots, we're going to be using the speak UDP, and then you can have it stop speaking, basically shut down the bot without closing it, so that no TTS comes through. And basically what you would do is anything else, you would just have that come in, and you could make a command. We're just going to do, I already made one. I named it clear TTS. And then you just say, okay, so now anytime my moderators say clear TTS, it'll clear out the queue. Now, I've never had a problem with the queue not being sent through and completing all of the TTSs, but it is possible. And so that's just a quick command so that my moderators could come in and go, oh, I can go, oh, I think the queue's stuck. Can you clear the queue? They can type that message in chat, and it'll clear the queue. So I don't have to stop what I'm doing, go to my speaker bot, open it up, go to the queue tab, look at it, figure it all out, and all that, and just clear it out. So you have those options built in. Just clear it out. So you have those options built in. Again, with the speaker bot here. And so you can mess around with those if you want to in the meantime. But again, you don't have to use streamer.bot to use speaker.bot, which is really, really nice. It does help because there are a lot of things that you can do with both of them together, which we're going to cover in more advanced tutorials later on. All right. So I think we've done everything. We've learned about all the tabs, what everything does. We've learned how to add speech engines. We've learned how to set up our bot for the speaking options. We've learned how to add voice aliases for specific users. We know who can use it, how they get on the list, if we give them a nickname, whether they're forced or not, whether they're always ignored or not, and what role they play, and if that role has a voice. And we've learned how to connect our accounts so that everything works correctly. So I think that's about it. So thank you again for watching. I know it's been another long tutorial. I hope it's been helpful. I know that there were some spots I went really fast.
Hammerwolf says % raw input %.